Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and today we're taking a look at Supernova. Specifically, this is the closed beta of Supernova, which, as far as I know, if you have pre-ordered the game in some form, you have access to already, or if you're like me and you have a little bit of a Google search around, you probably found this by going to Nvidia, and they have, I believe, they still have an active giveaway for Supernova keys. So if you're interested, you can probably have a look for that. If it's already closed at this stage, then I am very sorry. You'll have to wait a little bit longer, but it looks like this game is going to be free to play at some point, so who knows. Alright, so let's get straight into it. What is Supernova? This is a MOBA. Yeah, I'm actually doing one of those on this channel. It is a MOBA. It is a little bit different to a lot of other MOBAs, but has a lot of the things that are the same. So, right here, what you're looking at are the selection of commanders that are available right now. There's a fair few of them. But this is still pretty early. Right now we're at 0.8, you can see over here. That is, at the time of recording, this is the version that we're playing with. So these are the commanders available right now. And right off the bat, you're going to find a lot of characters that are very similar. In fact, pointed out to me by a very good friend of mine, that this character in particular is pretty much the same as another character from League of Legends. Like, near identical levels of similarity, in fact. If we just have a look at the skills here, and if I remember, there'll be a split screen here showing exactly what I'm talking about with that. So let's move along. So there are a lot of similarities with this and other MOBAs, of course, but there is one subtle difference, and that is right here. So in a traditional MOBA, you would have waves pushing down the 3 lanes of minions or creeps or whatever you call them, and they move along in select intervals. And that is something that you would expect. There are still towers and all of that, but in Supernova, what you actually do is you build your own waves. So what you're looking at here are the forces that I have to choose from. These are for the human side only. If I switch to cyborgs, there's a whole different set, and I haven't played the cyborgs very much, so I have basically nothing. Now, there are some slight differences between the two factions, but you can play on either side of the game with either set. So you can be cyborg and human on the same team, and vice versa. That is not, strictly speaking, limited. Now, the actual commanders themselves, if I'm just going to open up the Storm Herald right now. So, this is what they look like, and they're very nicely detailed. There's a lot of unnecessary detail in the actual characters, stuff that you may not even notice because of the perspective and distance that you play at. But most of the roles here are what you might consider to be fairly, I would say, familiar. So you've got the brawlers, tanks, casters, assassins, sniper, and support, and you've got melee and range categories. And all of these stats given to you in actual numbers makes it much easier to kind of figure out what this is for. So even these bars here give you a number that you can compare against to other characters. So these are the characters and these are their abilities. Now, additional to that, you have augmentations, and the free version, of course, will give you loadouts, which you can buy more of, and these give you things that you can craft. So if we have a look here, there are a bunch of things that we can do. So let's say I want to craft this. We have materials, which are collected from playing games. These, as far as I know, cannot be bought. Now, the currency system is active already, so I will get onto the actual microtransactions in a moment. But what we can actually see here, if I just craft this, we've now unlocked that, and we can drop that into one of the slots. And these are the total stats that will be given to whichever commander we play. So that is all well and good. All of these things, in fact, there's a trading loadout. Let's just save that. And we compare the two. There's some slight differences, but this is a more complete loadout and a more versatile one than this might be. Assuming that, you know, you build according to a particular type. Now, there are a lot of things to choose from right here. But for now anyway, this is what we can actually build. So I've got a fair few of these unlocked, and I think I can actually just use this loadout. Of course, I have one empty slot here, which is not particularly nice. Now, additional to all of these things, there is no item shop in the map. So in order to actually use special items and things, you actually have these things you can equip from the get-go. Now, these are locked behind certain levels, which frankly I don't think is entirely necessary, but it has this element of progression in it that you have to make use of. So right here you have your supportive abilities, you've got offensive abilities, you've got some utility stuff here which allows you to do things like remove debuffs and start moving at a faster speed, or you have things like here which instantly revives you, and so forth. So you have these things that are available that you can use as special abilities in-game, which I'll show you in a moment. And then aside from that, you also have Vortex, which are team level items. So we have a look here, Ancient Expert, which is the one I've equipped, increases the health of the Augur, which is your main base. Your shield generators, which protect the base, and the towers along the way get a slight increase in their health. It's not huge, but it does help your team quite significantly. Now if we go back to unit techs, again we have some that we can do. So these units here all have special they all have specialties, and they all have different stats. So here's a tank which is armored, which will mean that it takes less damage from attacks, and it's more effective against commanders and structures, whereas compared to a Pathfinder, which is a standard infantry unit, just has a standard range attack, but it can take a decent amount of damage. And then we have Stingers, which are a little bit more powerful but have less armor, and so on and so forth. So these are all different types of units. Now, some of them don't have an air attack, so that means aircraft such as the Dragonfly are able to attack them more effectively, and it does actually show you what they're more effective against. So the Dragonfly is more effective against armored units such as the tank, which has no air-to-air or no anti-air capability. And then there's a Scorpion, which is more effective against light armor, which means it'll be more effective against the Dragonfly, so these two kind of counter each other. Just think in terms of RTS rock, paper, scissors elements, and you kind of have the right idea. So building a character then in the game isn't just limited to what you spec yourself to be. It's also inclusive of things like augmentations and force mix-up. So these will follow you whichever lane you are assigned to, and will carry on from there. Alright, so now let's get into some gameplay, and first off, what you're seeing right here is the intro to basically every match of Supernova, and that's where this ship comes in. Of course, humans and cyborgs have different ships as far as I know, and then this very cool circuit board thing, and then the characters spawn in. It's very, very nice. I love that. In fact, visually anyway, the game looks really nice. Okay, so what you've just seen there... is the leveling up screen, and that's where you go to sort of add bonuses to your stats, so you can add weapon damage, attack speed, defense, and so on. Now, one thing to take note of, for people who've played Heroes of the Storm and so on, there's no gating in this game. You aren't locked into your base or anything. You can just go straight out from the very beginning, but there aren't going to be any troops supporting you. Now, the first wave is always a set of mercenaries. These are 2 units that are given to you absolutely free. And if you look at the bottom right there, there's the actual forces building screen, and that's where you actually build your units from. Now, in this case, I'm playing a character called Macwell. So, Macwell is a ranged sniper who has 2 different weapons, and one of his abilities is a weapon switch, which will alternate between a sort of life-stealing, or rather, regen life on hit weapon. It's not particularly powerful, but it allows you to sustain damage over a long period of time. And the secondary weapon consumes energy, or basically the mana pool for each character. And that allows you to do more damage per shot, in fact significantly more damage per shot, but it is going to consume the energy that's used for other abilities. So that is kind of the trade-off you have to make. Now, I've been told that this is pretty much the same as a character in League of Legends called Jinx, who has a similar sort of setup with 2 different weapons. Now, exactly how similar these characters are, I'm not entirely sure, because that's not a game that I've played too much of yet, but it is clear that if they are copying some characters, then, well, they're copying from one of the bigger names in the business, so I couldn't really blame them, but I'd like to see a little bit more originality. So now we've got our first proper wave out in this match, and you can see next to me is another commander, which is what the champions or heroes in this game are called. And this is also another ranged character. Now we're fighting against the Bloat, who is more of a tank, and Mortanica is kind of a burst damage assassin, who's actually very dangerous if you don't shut her down very quickly. So that's actually a very potent combination, a tank and a very high damage dealer. So we're moving in there. You can see the blue forces there are actually the wave created by my partner in this lane at the moment, and the ones highlighted in green are the ones created by me. Now we do share resources as far as I know to create it, so if you do build the factory, which is, if you have a look in the bottom right there, the blue button creates the factory that allows you to build the units. That will be sort of shared globally, so only one person needs to buy it before anybody else, I believe in the lane at least, can build those units. So only one person needs to do that. Now what you've just seen there is actually a sensor drone, or a motion sensor, and that is basically this game's equivalent of a ward, or a sentry ward, and that will just allow you to see very far. Now, where that actually goes to is you can actually redeploy to any position on the map. Now this is very similar to teleports that you might see in other MOBAs, but this is granted to every person. There's no item shop, by the way, so there's absolutely no item shop. And you can redeploy to anywhere on the map that is visible. So wards that are far ahead, which are actually cloaked from the enemy until they get close to it, if you get there, you can actually redeploy it, because you can see that part of the map. So it's a very useful ability, but it has a very long cooldown on it. And as is typical, of course, death counts, or death timers rather, do tick down a lot longer as the match goes on. So if you die very late game, good luck to you, you're going to be out of the match for a very long time. So still very simple and traditional as it looks. It's still very much a traditional MOBA. It breaks the mold slightly in that it gets rid of things like the item shop and it adds in RTS elements, but so far nothing too new just yet. But there is something about this game, something that I can't really describe exactly. It seems to be that something about the setting and the way that it's played is far more appealing to me than any other MOBA has been. Now, of course, with the exception of League, which this seems to be based on, it could be a case of maybe that's the playstyle that I was looking for, but I haven't actually checked out for myself. Who knows? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump further ahead in this match to a much later game to kind of let you know what that looks like. Alright, here we are, and we're already up to level 9. Now, the level cap for the game is level 15, and in that time you can also gain proficiencies, which if you have a look just above my character portrait there, they're listed at the right of that, so they're actually purple. Proficiencies are different to the standard attributes, so they allow you to gain things like lifesteal and carry damage, and all sorts of little perks there that give you additional buffs that the standard attributes don't, so they can actually really help to bolster your particular playstyle or your character sort of specialty. So in this case I'm going for as much damage as possible, mainly because this character seems to be more focused on actual weapon damage than any sort of ability damage at all. The abilities are useful, but they're more there to supplement your actual weapon abilities. Now there is a little bit of rubber banding going on. This varies from match to match. On some matches it's perfectly smooth, in other matches it tends to bounce around all over the place, and it seems to depend more on the characters, or rather the players that you're playing with, more so than the actual server, because the server, as far as I know anyway, most of them seem to be connecting to US East, possibly West. I'm not sure about that, but it seems to be NA-based servers. Either way, that's not something I normally have bad lag on, so it varies from match to match. Now you see I'm trying to back away there because of, obviously going 2v1 at this stage is still a really bad idea. And the individual player levels, or rather character levels for this, do seem to matter as well quite a lot. In fact, a 2-level difference is a really big deal in a lot of cases, so you do want to avoid that. And I'm still 2v1 at the moment, so just waiting for my teammate to get back in. So I'm just switching between my weapons there, trying to keep Mortanica off my back. At a certain point, the AI do actually pop back. Of course, right now I am actually playing a co-op match against AI. They seem to be much easier to get into at this stage than the standard 5v5. Not sure why that is, but maybe it could just be that less people are queuing up for that. And given that the game doesn't have a huge population at this particular stage yet, that is a bit of a problem. So long queue times, most people won't wait for a 5v5 if nobody's queuing up for it at all. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet, of course, right here you can actually see the research tab. So your actual units as well that you build can be buffed to have particular abilities. So you can increase their damage, you can increase the damage against structures, commanders, depending on what research you have. Now, this occurs throughout the match, usually late game, because at that stage you already have your unit mix and you don't tend to change it too much at that stage. Now you can see the actual wave is pretty big now. We have an artillery piece, a couple of aircraft, and we even have some light vehicles there in there. Now this of course is my teammate's particular wave. My wave happens to contain a slightly different mix, but it is pretty similar. But they do get pretty big. Now I've just deployed a tactical ability. This drops a medical drone which gives me an area of healing. It's not particularly fast heal, but it is kind of a lifesaver in certain situations. But of course I want to follow this wave forward a little bit because my teammate is back. So a lot of teamwork required here, and I'm actually playing with a friend in this particular match, but she's in top lane at the moment, so we can't actually see what she's doing. Now, we have actually had a player from top lane come in here, so we're going to take this tower now. In fact, that's actually the character I pointed out earlier on in the character selection, who was very similar to Vel'Koz from League of Legends. So, that's a thing. Alright, so now we're right at the door of their base, and you can actually see that the AI does react to this. They will sometimes jump lanes to kind of defend at this stage, so at certain points you could even face an entire team in this section too. The AI is not actually a slouch for that. They are a little bit over aggressive, which can get them killed from time to time, but if you play smart you can get around that. So I'm trying to kind of support the attack here with Timmy playing the EOS character leading the charge. So right there you can see there's a little structure in front of the auger, which is the base rather, and that's actually a shield generator, so you have to target that first before you can actually just destroy the main base. And it is lane dependent, so there are 3 of them on each auger, so they do point into whichever lane that is. So you take down that before you can actually attack the auger itself. So right now you can see this match is pretty much done, but there's still quite a lot to see going on here. They're still spawning units here, and in fact you can see another character coming out, Maxim over there. Particularly nasty melee character, and in fact he's just jumped on me there. It's almost killed me. So he's a tank. He doesn't do a lot of damage, but he has a jump attack that stuns. So that's something you do want to be careful about. So you can see there is actually the same sort of tactical stuff that you see in other MOBAs is still well and truly present in Supernova. It just adds this greater element of the actual forces balance. Now, the forces balance is rock, paper, scissors. In a lot of cases, these artillery pieces you can see have really long range. They can, in fact, match the range of most towers. The only thing is they're unable to attack aircraft, and they don't have a lot of armor, so you don't want to send them in alone. They'll usually get killed pretty quickly. And in fact, even at this stage, we still have infantry coming out, because the standard infantry is a sort of good against everything unit, but master of nothing. So they're a good fodder type unit. The Stingers over there with the rocket launchers are a little bit more specialized. And of course there are aircraft as well, which are very good against armored units and artillery. So if you've played RTSs before, you know what to expect. If you tank rush somebody, you counter that with aircraft. If they send an aircraft, you counter that with light vehicles or anti-air. There's a very simple rock, paper, scissors effect going on here. And in fact, the game also does give you a forces overview screen, which gives you a very clear indication of what units are lacking or what units are currently overpowering. Now, one thing I do want to also mention here is the idea of supremacy. Now, supremacy is an effect that is applied to the whole team. So if you look at the top of the screen there, that's your actual team indication there. The big number that you see, 32 on the left and 20 on the right in green and red respectively, that is the total team kills. And I believe on the left of that number, the smaller number anyway, that is the total attribute score of the team. Now, that will basically give you an idea of exactly how strong the team is. Next to that, of course, is a symbol that shows the structures. So you can see on the right there, that's pretty much gone. The Augur is under attack and all the towers are gone. But on our team, of course, they've only managed to destroy one tower. Now, I did get killed there, so you can have a quick look at the proficiency screen here. So you can see on the right are the proficiencies there, which I have Weapon Strike and Lifesteal on, and a Carry Burst. So that gives me more damage, Lifesteal per hit. And I've added another proficiency on there that gives me critical, which gives me more weapon damage. In fact, Carry Burst there is actually for critical hits and critical damage. And Brawler damage there as well gives me attack speed and attack damage as well. Of course, at this stage we've pretty much won, so we're probably not going to see that. But the one thing I want to point out below the timer in the center there is that little star. And next to that is a little bar. That bar there fills up depending on exactly how strong your particular waves are against the enemy's waves. And if they keep dominating them wave per wave, that bar will continue to fill up. When it reaches the star, that team gains supremacy, and supremacy is an effect that gives all of your forces units additional damage against commanders and structures, and it gives you, I believe, attack speed for those units. I don't think it has any effect on the commanders, but I could be wrong about that, and it does that for 180 seconds. So for that period of time, your creeps essentially become mega creeps, and they can actually deal significant damage. So if you're losing, you could actually get your team to swap up your forces to the point where you get supremacy and make a big push again. It can be used to turn the tide, but it can also be used to keep the snowball rolling as well. So it can be a source of frustration or a cause of salvation even for teams. Now, take note that both teams can gain supremacy at the same time, because it can happen in either lane as well. It doesn't have to be in all of the lanes at once. So that's one thing to take note of. So that's one feature that I haven't seen in other MOBAs before, but it seems to be a very quick way of sort of changing up the game, using just the units alone. For example, if your commanders are under-leveled, you could actually use the forces then to kind of make up for that. Since they don't really gain levels together with you, they seem to kind of be the same all the way through. In fact, I think in some cases they're actually stronger than you are at the beginning. So that's one thing to take note of. Now, I'm probably going to die again here simply because I'm currently stuck at a 2v1 situation, and I've managed to use my rush there to get away from them, but not quite enough. And there goes their command center, and there goes the game. But overall, that is pretty much how a game plays out. It's very traditional MOBA-esque, but that level of the forces itself making that much of difference seems to be a very interesting concept, and if they build even more on that, it could actually be something really interesting. Now, I want to talk about the actual currency system. So we go into the store here. Now, purchase platinum. This is the paid currency right now. And this is active. You can use Visa or MasterCard to pay for stuff right now. And it looks like the different packages, of course, you get more for the amount that you pay. So in this case, $20 is 11,500 platinum. And this seems to be a little bit bugged at the moment, because it seems you can infinitely scroll through it, which is a little bit confusing, because the $100 one here is 62,500. So that gives you an idea of how much you're actually getting for what you're paying for. Now, what can you actually use these for? First off, you can buy boosters. So we have a look at that. That actually costs platinum right there. So this will allow you to gain elements. This will allow you to gain, I guess, all things. Credits, which is the free currency. And this is just for in-game currency only, to get a booster to that. And there's an XP booster as well, so that gives you a boost to faction XP only. So that's a faction XP up there. Now, this actually goes across quite quickly. I wouldn't suggest that you need it at the very early stages, but if you really want it, it's there. How pay to win is it? It's hard to say, because with this, you unlock more units, and you unlock more tactical abilities, so it's arguable that you would have more things at your disposal the higher level you go. But at the same time, you would have to play more effectively to know what you're doing, so it's arguable whether or not that's going to be game-breaking or not. Frankly, I haven't seen anything that's paid for, to an extent that actively makes the player better yet, so that's that. We can also unlock characters. So we've got 2 new ones that have just been added to the game in this current patch. So we have the Storm Herald and Shadrach. They all have very nice designs and nice, well, reasonably good voice acting. It's a little bit hit and miss here and there, but overall very nicely detailed characters here. And they can be unlocked for platinum. Of course, if you just play, I believe 6,000 credits, assuming you win every match in a 5v5. You could probably get this in about 10 matches. You can fully unlock this character. And then there are units. So unlocking these, you can use platinum to unlock them. You can do that. These are actually the top level stuff. But you still need at least level 10 to be able to use them. So it's still locked away regardless of whether you want to pay for it or not. But these are the top level units that for either faction. And technologies are in-game currency only, as far as I can tell. Yep, all of these buffs are all in-game currency only. Skins are paid only. So that's one thing. You do have to own the commander in order to use them, I believe. So that's one thing you need to do. And there are themes as well. So these are actual skins for your waves. So you can get some things if you want to do that. That's all paid currency as well. And then there are starter packs. So if you want to spend a bit more money to get a lot of stuff, for example, let's say a starter pack here for humans gives you 4 commanders and a skin, a booster, and a couple of things there. And that 11,500 is, just let that load, $20. So you can unlock a fair amount for, let's see, 20, that would probably be about $40. If you want the full Founders Pack, which gives you a bunch more, that is, I believe, $40 straight up, or 50. So we have a look again at the pricing there. That's 30,000 platinum is $50, so it's just under $50. There's about $40-ish for that. But you have to get both of them, of course, to get everything. So price-wise, it's just under the price of a AAA full retail title, which is not too much, but again, it depends on how good you really think the game is, and so on. And of course, these are loadout slots, so you can get additional ones for credits, or you can get a bunch of them for platinum only. That's entirely up to you. So, now we've looked at that, all I can really say is whether or not this game is any good, time will tell once it's actually launched. But one thing's for sure is I'm personally enjoying the game more so than I have with basically any other MOBA, but considering the parallels between this and games like League of Legends in terms of the actual playstyle, it seems to be a sort of alternative to that. Whether or not it's going to be competitive to the game or not remains to be seen. But I'd say if you like MOBAs and you're looking for something a little bit different, this could possibly be a decent alternative. The only thing at this stage is that there are not a lot of people playing it yet, so queue times tend to be a little bit long. But that said, when you get into a match, it can be quite enjoyable, and matches tend to last anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes, or in some cases up to 50 minutes long, depending on how well the team plays. But overall, this looks like something that's worth keeping on the radar. I like the graphics. The graphics are very, very nice. The sound assets are pretty good as well. There aren't too many bugs from what I've seen so far, but overall it's something that I've really enjoyed playing, and I think it could even be a good gateway into other MOBAs. If you're not into those just yet, it might be something worth looking at. So, thank you very much for watching. My name is Panzer, taking a look at Supernova's closed beta. It links to, I believe, the NVIDIA giveaway page, and all that will be down in the description below. If that's still open, go and grab yourself a key and go check out the game. If not, wait for it to launch in full, which should be happening sometime in the next few months. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and comment down below if you have any questions. And once again, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.